One of the questions that I have repeatedly gotten that has really stopped to make me think is this question of whether or not one should burn their journals. And, when I first started out on this journey of making videos about keeping a journal, I couldn't imagine burning anything. And part of that is because in my first video, which I'll link below, my mother actually had burned some of her journals from when my sister and I were little. And I've always mourned the loss of those journals because I feel like it's a chapter of our history that we'll just never get back. But my mom did pick up journaling again, and she had her reasons for doing that. And I know now that many of you have done the same. And so I have spent a lot of time in the comments. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this question. I've spent some time wondering if maybe I should burn my journals too, eventually, not right now because I actually take great inspiration from them. But I wanted to break it down into kind of like a logical set of questions that maybe you'll ask yourself on whether this is something that would make sense for you too. I think it's somewhat of a profound conversation, actually. I think it goes to really who you are as a person. And it also goes to what your intentions with a journaling practice are. And so I think this is a really fascinating question that has driven some of the narrative arc of this whole series. Do you want to keep your journals forever and make them a vault of your history? Or do you want to eventually let them go in whatever form that might be? That is what I plan to talk about today. So I will now jump in. I have taken some notes in my very small notebook that I took on my trip last week. Some of you may have different reasons, but these are the things that I came up with based on feedback and based on my own experience. So without further ado, what do you do with your old journals? And should you think about burning them? It's a very dramatic act, very dramatic. So let's start with the positives. Why would you keep your journals? I feel like there are really 4 great reasons. I'm sure there are actually even more than that, but these are sort of the top level ones. I think the first one is I keep my journals because they are idea incubators. I keep so many ideas, plans, aspirations, goals. I really do use my journals as almost portable studios. I really like to use paper for thinking, which is, I think there's a paper company that uses that as a tagline, but I think that's a very strong tagline. I think that that is a really wonderful reason all on its own. Like you can stop there and just keep your journals forever, because if you are creating something new or you have big ambitions or you want to keep track of something you're building, your journals can be a wonderful spot to hold on to that thought. Because I don't know, I remember a lot, but I also remember more when I come across it later in a journal. And I'm also a very visual thinker. So when I write something down and I remember how it looks on a page, I'm more likely to recall it. So when I was in college, in order to study for tests, I always would create these cheat sheets, and they were very, very visual. I would lay out the information in kind of flowchart fashion. And that really helped me to remember the material. So even if I couldn't take a cheat sheet into the exam with me, just the act of creating the cheat sheet helped to trigger my memory and make me more successful in those exams. Having this practice in my life has also made me more successful, not just in school, but at work and in different areas of my life as well. The idea incubator is a really good, standalone reason. The second reason for keeping the journals in whatever form that might be is if you have been through hard times and you have journaled through it and you are on the other side. Who among us have not been through some kind of hard times and have somehow pulled through? I think that the journal can be a really wonderful way to document your own resilience. And it is so powerful to be able to come back and relive not the pain, but the resilience, the comeback, the ability to keep on even when the odds are stacked against you. So I think that record can be hugely powerful for people. And sometimes when you're in the midst of the struggles, you may not realize how powerful that could be for you in later life. So think about that. If you've had the urge to burn, maybe it's worth it to hold on to those things. Okay, the third thing is some of you have commented that your journals are just too boring. I know I said I was almost done with the series, but honestly, I have a lot to say on that topic because I think that some of the magic in keeping a journal is that you end up with these incredible accounts of the everyday, and that is so beautiful. And it can make you kind of thankful for the life you have as opposed to the life that you wish you had. So I think that's another super powerful reason to keep the journals. And then finally, the most obvious one for me is the family posterity argument. The idea that you are recording something for your family to enjoy in a generation or two or even longer, and that is something that will be very dear to people who are going to come after you. And, maybe this is less interesting to some. I think a lot of people seem to assume that their children would be not interested. I think it's worth a conversation. I mean, I definitely treasure, and I've talked about this before, I treasure the notebooks for my mother and for my grandmother, and I feel like it is a lot like having a conversation with them, even though they are both gone. I really value that. That's something that I really love, and I love to look back on them. And I don't have that much time, so I don't do it often. I think that alone is also worth keeping. But I have to say, okay, so switching course now, let's go into the next section, which is reasons to burn. So I'm using burn as a catch-all. Some people will, I don't know what people said. They threw them in the dumpster, or they threw them in the sea. I don't know. Choose your way of destroying your books. And while this isn't the choice that I have made so far, I have to say some people made some really good points about how it can be very therapeutic to cut loose, to let the baggage go literally and figuratively and move on. So the sort of three different ways that I rationalize this move is, if you have a journal that has been 100% venting, if you are just full of toxic energy because you are mad at somebody in your life or your job, and that is really what you have used it for, and it has been a true emotional release, and once you're done, you never want to look at that book again, have at it. Burn that baby. Get that into a campfire. Let it go. I haven't done that yet, but I have to say that when I look back at some of my middle school journals, I consider it. I mean, at this point, I think I'm probably not going to do it just because now I'm talking to you guys all the time about my journals. But, there was a lot of unhappiness back then in 7th grade and 6th and honestly 8th too. So I digress. The point is, if you feel like those journals are just full of pain and you have moved on and you don't want to go back and revisit, cut them loose. It's okay. You can do that too. I mean, so many people have said that it really has been positive for them to let those things go. And the power is in the moment that you are writing those words and releasing those thoughts from your mind and your body. In the beginning, I have to say I was very reluctant to suggest that this would even be a possibility. But after reading like thousands of comments, I kind of can see it. I see why. I do. Maybe you do too. Or maybe you think this is a horrible video. And I'm sorry for that. But keep watching because there's more. There's good stuff coming, I promise. Okay, the second reason to burn is the one that I find really super, super heartbreaking, which is a privacy shield. If you feel that you are in danger, even if it's psychological danger, because you keep a journal and you have a partner or a parent or somebody who is going to read those journals and take action against you, I 100% understand why you would not want them. I get it. You don't want that fuss. You don't want that fight. You also don't want that injury. And, if you can't lock them up and put them in a storage box somewhere, if you can't put them in a safe, then get rid of them. And if you still want to keep journaling, then I have been convinced also by some of you guys commenting that probably the best way to do that is digitally. So if you can keep something on a password protected phone, track your life that way, that is very, very valuable. I mean, I am a big believer in handwriting. I really love handwriting. Some people recommend handwriting, then scanning, keeping it behind a password protected tool, whether it's Evernote or journals or whatever. You can take a photograph of what you've done and then burn that page. That would also serve the purpose of getting the writing out, but then getting rid of the physical artifact so that whatever situation you're in, if it feels unsafe, you do not have to confront that. I think the hardest part for me in this conversation is I just really wish that people didn't have to live in situations where they felt unsafe. I know that sometimes it's your parents and you can't control where you are living. Sometimes it's a partner, and there are many reasons why people can't leave relationships. My wish for you, as you are watching this video, is that you find yourself in a safe and comfortable place where keeping a journal is in fact okay, and you wouldn't need to resort to this kind of drastic maneuver in order to both accomplish the goal of doing something for yourself, but also not putting yourself in danger by doing so. Ooh, this one feels heavy. And then finally, related to all of these is this psychological shift. So a lot of people have commented that when they actually cut loose of some of their journals and burned them up, they felt an emotional release that was truly cathartic. And I don't think I'm quite brave enough to do that yet, but I don't know, maybe when I'm like in my 70s, I will. Maybe before I die, I'm going to do a Swedish death cleaning. And if you haven't heard of that, check it out. I think it's fascinating. My mom sort of got into that towards the end, but she wasn't at the stage where she could really make mental decisions about what to cut loose and what to keep. But I think that is a really fascinating ritual. It's really about reducing your clutter and your physical artifacts so that your kids and the next generation don't have to deal with your literal baggage. And related to this whole psychological shift, that if you let the past go and you let those journals go, you will be able to focus more on the present and feel enlightened. And I mean literally enlightened, like lighter in the world, because you have let some of that darkness that was in your journals go. Okay, so me being me, I see the world in shades of gray. I am not just a black and white kind of person. So this idea of whether to burn or not to burn, I think we need a minute to think about some alternatives. I think that this would be an interesting compromise for people who have been reluctant to burn. There are some people who have mentioned that they did burn their stuff and that they regretted it. So not a lot, but a few people have really said, like, I burned my notebooks from my teen years and my 20s, and I really regret it now, but I've started again, or, whatever that is. And so I get it. Like, people have reasons for doing what they do. But if you don't really want to burn it all, there are some ways you can do things differently. So the first is selective splicing. This one, I think it's interesting if you think about, I've actually done this in some of my art journals, where I have maybe a notebook that I like, but I don't like all of the work that I've done. And, most sketchbooks, I would say, it doesn't matter if it's good, it doesn't matter if it's bad, it's a place to play, all that sort of stuff. More of that to come, by the way, in future videos. But sometimes you really don't like what you have there. And sometimes you really just think, I just need to get rid of this out of my life. I don't want to see this anymore. This portrait I did of somebody came out so poorly that I would prefer never to see it again. So you either pull the things you like out of that notebook and chuck the notebook, or you pull the things you don't like out and keep the notebook and add to it in a different way. And I think that accomplishes a couple things. One is I go through a lot of notebooks. Like I make a lot of art. I do a lot of writing. And so when I can consolidate the things that I really like into one place, it actually creates higher value than having 6 notebooks of things that are all mediocre. That, I think, is a really interesting practice. I think it takes a little bit of work. It will be effort for you if you have kept a journal for a long time and you just want to keep the pages that you really love. But it is a way to sort of consolidate, have less mass to deal with. You don't have to have 4 boxes. You could have maybe 1, or you could pick just the best things and have just a little notebook or a little binder or a little envelope or whatever it is to keep those things that are most dear to you. There's this theory, and I'm going to totally butcher it right now, but there's this theory that the less you have, just in general, the more you treasure the things that you actually keep. I think that is great advice and something I aspire to incorporate into my own life. However, there's a lot of art supplies in my world, and I don't really want to get rid of them because I use them. I use them all the time. Maybe not all of them, but a lot. And if I get rid of something, I'm going to want to use it right away. I'm going to be like, where did I put those markers? Oh, I donated them. Now I have to buy more, so. The next strategy is actually one I just spoke about in the previous one, which is the scan and save approach, which is finding a way to scan your pages and get rid of the physical and keep the digital. So that's something that I've seen a lot of people recommend. I have used the Evernote scan app for, actually not for journals, but I had a big collection of letters and photographs and artifacts and notes and admissions and rejection letters and things like that I scanned a couple of years ago. Very fast process. I haven't done it with books yet because I feel like I need to pull the books apart. There are companies that will actually take and scan your finished notebooks. I don't know how much it costs. I know that libraries use things like this all the time. So that's something that I might go down that path and take a look at. At the moment, I think the physical is still good for me. But that's something that if you are in a different stage in life, or if you really want something more private, that's something available to you as well. And then the final one, and I bring this up because I just was up visiting my aunt, my lovely aunt. She also has kept a journal for a very long time. For the first, 30 years or so of her life, maybe 40 years of her life, she kept physical notebooks. And then she switched over and she keeps a digital record. So I think she just keeps a, log on her computer. And she writes every day. That's like part of her general habit. And she's one of the most thoughtful people I know. But she had taken all of her physical notebooks and she had bundled them up into, a sort of standard size banker's storage box. She bundled it up with duct tape. And so it has been sitting on a shelf in her closet for decades. That is an interesting way to do it, because if you bundle up a box and really securely fasten it with packing tape or duct tape or whatever it is, and you label it, you say journals from X time to X time, it's going to be hard for someone to break into it without you knowing, A. And B, it's just sort of out of sight, out of mind. And so the benefit there is that, you could do that and think on the whole burning thing and maybe not do it for a little longer. Maybe you let them sit on that back shelf for 20 years and then take them out, look at them once, and then decide to get rid of your journals. Maybe you'll look at them and decide that actually your kids really would like to take a look at them. I like that time capsule concept a lot. So ultimately, it's really up to you how you want to handle your journals. I think this is such a personal decision on how much to keep and how much to save, how much to let go. But there are actually, my mind has changed here. There are great reasons for both sides. And there are great ways to compromise and to consolidate and to make things a little more compact. I would love to hear from you if you haven't already weighed in on this channel with your approach and how you, and even if you've already comment again, you're welcome to. I may have misrepresented what you said, or maybe you have more to say on the topic. I do find this fascinating, and I feel like we're just scratching the edges on this. That's it for today. I hope everybody is having a wonderful early June. I can't believe we're already in June. I have a live that's happening it's probably going to happen just before I publish this. We'll see if I get this out before my live on Monday, June 8th. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you're writing. If you need a prompt for this week, I will tell you that one of the great things to do would be to take a look at this video that you just watched and I just made, and think to yourself, how do I feel about this? Where do I stand? What are my intentions for my journal? Do I want to share them with my family? Do I want to keep them in a locked box? Do I want to burn them someday? Will I feel a sense of catharsis? Where do you stand on this topic? So write that down in your journal. And I will see you very soon. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Keep writing. Can't wait to see you next time. Oh, look, it's the dog. It's the dog. The doggy's here.